Hello, my friends. Welcome to English Pavilion, the podcast. Here, we learn English through slow, meaningful stories. Today's story is called The Empty Chair. It's a story about love, memory, and how kindness can change a lonely heart. So sit back, relax, and let's begin. There was an old man named Mr. Harris. He lived alone in a small wooden house at the very end of a quiet street. The house had white walls, a little garden full of wildflowers, and an old wooden gate that made a soft sound every time it opened. The neighbors often saw him sitting on his porch, wearing his brown sweater, looking at the horizon. He was not a sad man, but his eyes told stories that time had not erased. Every morning, as the sun rose slowly over the rooftops, Mr. Harris made 2 cups of tea. He placed one cup in front of him and the other across the table, right in front of an empty chair. The chair was old, but well cared for. He would polish it every Sunday, as if someone might come to sit on it. After placing the cups, he would whisper softly, "Good morning, my dear." Then he would smile, look at the steam rising from both cups, and take a small sip from his own. The other cup always stayed full. It always became cold. But Mr. Harris never stopped making it. 3 years had passed since his wife Mary had left this world. She was the love of his life. They had shared 50 years together, 50 years of laughter, arguments, songs, and tea. In that same chair, Mary used to sit every morning. She would tell him about her dreams, about the flowers in the garden, or the stories she read in the newspaper. She would laugh, and her laughter used to fill the little house like sunlight. Now, there was only silence, but Mr. Harris kept her memory alive through that small, quiet ritual. One spring morning, a moving truck stopped next door. A young family had arrived. They had a little girl named Emma. Emma was 7, curious, and always full of questions. She liked to explore, to ask, and to notice things that grown-ups often ignored. On her second day in the new neighborhood, Emma saw Mr. Harris sitting alone in his garden. She waved at him. He waved back. His smile was kind, the kind that made people feel safe. The next day, Emma walked through the gate and said, "Hello, mister. I'm Emma. We just moved here." Mr. Harris smiled again. "Well, hello, Emma. Welcome to the neighborhood. Do you like tea?" Emma giggled. "I've never tried it." Mr. Harris nodded. "Then today's the perfect day to start." He invited her to sit. He made 2 cups of tea. As he placed them on the table, Emma noticed the second cup across from him. She pointed at it and asked, "Who's that one for?" Mr. Harris looked at the cup for a long moment. Then he said softly, "It's for my wife. She used to sit there. I still make tea for her every morning." Emma looked surprised. "But she's not here?" He smiled gently. "No, she isn't. But love doesn't leave when someone goes away. It stays, it just changes shape." Emma thought about that. She took a sip of her tea. It was warm, sweet, and calming. She didn't say anything more that day, but the story stayed with her. In the following weeks, Emma began visiting Mr. Harris every afternoon. She would tell him about her school, her friends, and the things she discovered in the garden. Sometimes they would sit quietly and listen to the birds. Sometimes he would tell her stories about when he and Mary were young. He told her how they met in a library. She loved books, and he was there to return one. They both reached for the same copy of Pride and Prejudice. Their hands touched. They laughed, and that simple moment became the beginning of 50 years of love. Emma loved hearing about it. She would ask, "What was she like?" Mr. Harris would smile and say, "She was like springtime. Even in winter, she made everything bloom." Emma liked that answer. She didn't understand everything, but she could feel the warmth in his words. One morning, Emma's mother knocked on Mr. Harris's door. She looked a little worried. "Mr. Harris," she said, "I hope Emma isn't bothering you with her visits." He shook his head immediately. "Not at all. She brings laughter back into this house. It's been a long time since I heard that sound." Emma's mother smiled. From then on, she often sent cookies or pie for him. Little by little, the old man's quiet house began to feel alive again. Then one day, Emma came running to his door, holding something behind her back. "Close your eyes," she said. He laughed softly. "All right, they're closed." She placed something on the table. "Now open them." On the table sat a small teacup, painted with tiny blue flowers. "I made it in art class," she said proudly. "This is for your wife's chair." Mr. Harris looked at the cup. His hands trembled slightly. He didn't speak for a few seconds. Then he said, "It's beautiful, Emma." She would have loved it. That morning, they made 3 cups of tea. One for him, one for Emma, and one for Mary. The table looked full again. As weeks turned into months, Emma and Mr. Harris became inseparable. He taught her how to plant flowers. She taught him how to use her mother's phone to take pictures. Sometimes they would sit in silence, just listening to the ticking of the clock. For Mr. Harris, it felt like time had softened. It no longer hurt as much as before. One evening, as the sun went down, as they watched the raindrops slide down the window, "If one day you don't see me outside," Emma asked quietly, "don't be sad. Mr. Harris, just remember, do you ever stop that love her? Doesn't go away. One evening, as the sun went down, memory, in every sound, Emma, in every little thing if one day you don't see me outside," Emma nodded, "don't be sad." She didn't want to think about that day. Just remember that love doesn't go away. His hand tightly. It stays in every memory, in every sound. A few weeks later, one morning, thing we shared. Emma went to visit. Emma nodded, but found the gate closed. She didn't want to think about that. The garden was still. She held his hand. On the table were 2 cups of tea, and he smiled. One full, one half empty. A few weeks later, one morning, and a small note. Emma went to visit. It said, but found the gate Emma, closed. "Thank you for bringing light back into my life." On the table were 2 cups of tea. I kept my promise to love her one full, every morning, one half empty, and now it's time to rest. Note. Never stop sharing kindness. Thank you for bringing light back into my life. Beautiful. I kept my promise to love her filled Emma's eyes. And now it's time to rest. Never stop sharing kindness. She looked at the empty chair across from her and whispered, "Good morning," filled Emma's eyes. Years sat down in his chair. Emma grew up. The tea was still warm. She became a teacher. She looked at the empty chair across from her. She made 2 cups of tea and whispered, one for herself, "Good morning," and one Mr. Harris. She placed beside an empty chair. Years passed. When her students asked why, she became a teacher. She smiled and said, "Every morning, because love she made 2 cups of remembering. One for herself." The story continued. She placed beside one empty chair. Kindness became when her students asked why, one memory she smiled and said another. Because love in a quiet corner of the world. And so kept story finding a way to one act down of kindness became another. Means remembering. One memory lived inside can fill an empty heart, and in a quiet small act of the world can change someone's day. Kept love never disappears. To sit down only transforms. Love so my friends remembering. When you miss someone, can fill an empty or feel heart. Alone. A small act remember can change someone's day. Love does not end. Never disappears. It changes shape. It only transforms. It becomes memory. So my friends, it becomes kindness. When you miss someone, it becomes light or feel alone. Thank you for listening. Remember this story. English Pavilion, love does not end. If you enjoy this story, it becomes memory. Practice it. It becomes kindness. And remember, every becomes light you speak. Thank you for listening. Closer to confidence. To English Pavilion. See you again soon. If you enjoyed this story,